So, today is a special day. For whatever reason, I kind of want to try to explore the world outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to detach the camera here. Okay, so you guys can see, got sweet lights set up there, and all right, let's go explore the outside. I got some posters. See that one? That one's kind of, oh, you saw me there. So let's oh God, oh no, oh no. Oh no, 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 no. What is going on, guys? So today we are back, and today we're actually going to be doing a versus video. This one's kind of an interesting one because we've actually not done a deep dive on either of the two subjects today, but if voting stays the way that it has been, Yanma may actually be the deep dive that we see tomorrow. But of course, that's up to you guys. If you want to see something different, of course, vote in the comment section below. Just drop the name of a Pokemon. So getting started today, we are going to do Yanma versus Yanmega. And considering that Yanmega is an evolution of Yanma itself, I thought that this one would be kind of interesting to look at. And considering that we haven't done a deep dive here, we're just going to kind of gloss over some information, talk about some critiquing points that we're going to be looking at in the actual video today. And then we're just going to kind of hit through a spreadsheet. Versus videos usually aren't like super long. I just kind of bring up the fact of like which one has better numbers and just kind of go from there. So starting off, we're going to talk about max CP here. So Yanma actually maxes out at 1470. That's at level 40 with 15s across the board. So if you're talking about having a Yanma in the Great League, you're actually going to be pushing very similar situation to like Metacham. What was the other one that we just recently talked about that maxes out? Come on, Delcatty. Delcatty was the one. The fact that you have to power it up all the way to level 40 and you're pretty much shooting for a perfect IV, that's one costly and one really, really rare to hit that 15 across the board there. So take that into consideration when you think about Yanma, because that's kind of a difficult task in itself. While Yanmega here maxing out at 2946, we do have a ton more CP there. And actually to get into the Great League, 0-1 attack, 14 defense, 15 stamina at level 19 actually hits that 1497, which is pretty freaking good for the Great League there. Some things that I did notice here, Yanmega actually has 2.5% more bulk than Yanma does. And I would like you guys to double check my number here, because I got 366% more on stat product. But that seems like insanely high. Although if you go look at the PvP spreadsheet, it is an insanely high number comparative between the two. Like Yanma, I don't even think, based on its stat product, doesn't even break 100,000, whereas Yanmega is like in the millions. Like I think it's like 1.2 or 1.5 or something like that. So, I mean, numerically it sounds correct, just doing quick math, but I mean, 366% is quite high. Not completely sure if that's 1,000% correct, but just bear with me. So of course, the movesets that we're actually going to be looking at today, Yanma is actually going to be rocking Wing Attack, Silver Wind, and Ancient Power, while Yanmega is actually going to be doing Bullet Bite. What in the... While Yanmega here is going to be doing Bug Bite, Aerial Ace, and Ancient Power. So the big thing with these two Pokemon is basically Wing Attack and Silver Wind kind of swap places for Yanmega, where we do a Bug type move and then a Flying type move on our fast move there. So, I mean, the only thing that really changes there, I guess we would do better at taking out Bug types with Yanma, because we could at least hit super effective damage right off the bat with just a fast move, whereas Bug Bite's going to hit neutral there. They both do fine up against grass, so okay. Basically, it's just a quick swap between our moves, but that's basically the movesets that we took into account for the rest of this video. So actually starting off with some shields here, we're gonna actually run through the entire Jungle Cup first. So we're actually gonna start off with the 0 versus 0 amongst both Pokemon here. We have a 47.8% with Yanma, and then a 47.8% with Yanmega. So already tied there in that first situation. Our second scenario is the 2 versus 0, where Yanma actually has a 95.5, while Yanmega actually ends up with a 94.8. So Yanma actually takes it in that shield scenario. Next, we run into our 0 versus 2, which Yanma actually gets away with a full 6%. 6% even there, while Yanmega actually has the 9.7. So the point definitely sways back to Yanmega there. In our last shield scenario up against the entire cup, we do have the 2v2, which is a 44% for Yanma and a 50% for Yanmega. So quite interesting there, because Yanma actually wins in the 2 versus 0 and then loses out in both the 0 versus 2 and the 2v2. So it pretty much looks like that Yanma actually can do pretty well if it has shields. Otherwise, if the opponent actually ends up having more shields, it's a lot harder to kind of break through that Pokemon. Whereas Yanmega, considering that the base stats are a little bit better for Yanmega there, especially in the attack, we do have a lot more damage output, even though we do have a neutral move in some scenarios versus a super effective fast move. We still do pretty freaking good there, because we're able to just output a raw damage just a lot higher than Yanma can do. So I found that quite interesting. And then moving into the meta, we've got some other interesting situations here as well. So we do start with the 0 versus 0 up against the meta, and we do a 50% for Yanma with a 40.9 for Yanmega. So Yanma's definitely taking it there. Then we move on to the 1 versus 0, which is a 72.7 versus a 63.9 for Yanmega. So Yanma takes it there again. Then we have the 0 versus 1, which is a 13.6 for Yanma with a lonely 4.5 up against Yanmega. And then in the last one that we do have the 1 versus 1, which is a 40.9 for Yanma and then a 31.8 for Yanmega. So every single scenario up against the meta, Yanma actually does better than Yanmega. So quite interesting, if I do say so myself. But to actually understand these numbers, of course, as we usually do with our versus videos, we're actually going to take a look at a spreadsheet that I built just for these two Pokemon. So as usual with these spreadsheets, I will try to leave this spreadsheet down in the, you know what? I'm gonna forget if I say do it in the comments. So I'm just gonna start putting them in the description somewhere, because I always forget, and then you guys always yell at me, but I tell you guys to do that. Either way, look for it. If I forget to even put it in the description, it's gonna be even worse. So it will be somewhere below the video, okay? It'll just be there, I promise. So starting off here, we do have all of our meta-relevant Pokemon on the left, and then you can see we do have a column for Yanma and Yanmega in columns D and F. And we do actually have a battle rating and HP for both of these Pokemon. So battle rating is literally the battle rating that we do as an attacker up against the defending Pokemon, which is in column B. And then we have the HP, which is actually the HP remaining that we have after the battle. So if we could take a look at some of these, this is of course our first one in the 0 versus 0. You can see all the way down at the bottom, we do have that 50% and that 40.9. It's just rounded up to 41 for the spreadsheet. And you can see that we do have a couple of interesting colors here. So let's actually take a look at Beedrill first off, and you can see that both Pokemon actually end up winning. But Yanma is actually going to be green, whereas Yanmega is actually going to be red. So even though both Pokemon have a battle rating higher than 500, I'm not really concerned about which Pokemon actually wins here. I just want to know which Pokemon performs better, and I want to know how often they perform better, because that's kind of going to give me an idea on which Pokemon I should be recommending, or possibly which Pokemon you think fits better for your team. So with Beedrill here, you can see we have a 653 versus 645. Yanma definitely does take it there. It does have more HP remaining after that fight, which is okay, that's fine. Then we move on to Breloom, and you can see Yanma takes it there again with an 875 versus 866. And then if we look down at Credilli, this is our first loss here. So in Credilli's matchup, we do have a 415 for Yanma and a 373 for Yanmega. So even though those are both losses, we still do have Yanma outperforming Yanmega there. So with that basic formula, if we run through all of the possible matchups here, the only odd one seems to be Scyther here, where with Scyther we both end up tying up against that Pokemon. So Scyther, doesn't matter which Pokemon you use here, you're going to end up tying either way. But all the way down at the bottom, you can see that Yanma actually ends up having a battle rating higher than 500 50% of the time, whereas Yanmega is 40.9 or 41%. But every time that Yanma is preferred over Yanmega is actually totaled in that preferred row down on row 30. And you can see Yanma is actually preferred 14 times compared to Yanmega, who is only preferred 9 times. Now you're saying, wait a minute, 14 plus 9 is 23. Why would 23 matchups appear here? You have to remember that we both do actually tie up against Scyther, so it really doesn't matter which one we do. They're both preferred, as they're both going to be just fine for that matchup. Now if we quickly look over to that 1 versus 1, we can actually see there that we do have a 416 on Yanma up against the Beedrill, and then we do have a 218, so of course Yanma actually takes it there. But if we go all the way down to the bottom, you can see that we're preferred 16 times in the 1 versus 1 with Yanma versus only 6 times with Yanmega. So, I mean, that's crazy how much more often Yanma is preferred over Yanmega. And I think this poses a really interesting situation for both Yanma and Yanmega, because right out of the gate, Yanmega actually does better as a generalist. Up against most of the cup, we actually perform just a tad bit better than Yanma does. Not saying he's an amazing generalist or an amazing specialist in any way, but generally he does better than Yanma up against the rest of the cup. Whereas Yanma actually does really good up against the meta directly compared to Yanmega. So it's kind of an awkward situation where I feel like if you're going into a tournament that possibly has people that are a little less experienced or possibly aren't as well read up on the meta, possibly they don't know, like, hey, Charm actually added this crazy, situation with some of the fairy users, or Vigoroth has this insanely high damage output for the Jungle Cup. If they're somebody that doesn't really read up on the meta as much, you could probably get away and have better numbers with Yanmega there. Whereas if you are going into a situation where the entire tournament is just going to be filled with people that are really well read, that are possibly counting fast moves and trying to keep track of your energy as your opponent, those people are obviously going to know a lot more about the matchups and a lot more of what they're doing against meta-relevant Pokemon, and are more than likely going to be using those meta-relevant Pokemon. So Yanma would make a lot more sense there, in my opinion. But we also do go back to that problem where Yanma is going to cost an insane amount of Stardust to power up, and then Yanmega is definitely going to be the cheaper of the two, which is quite interesting. And you also do have to remember that Yanma, actually rocking Silverwind and Ancient Power, does have 2 possible sets of buffing and debuffing and status inflicting moves, if you will. So that is quite interesting, whereas Yanmega only has the 1 Ancient Power. So I guess if you're that live it on the riskier side kind of guy, possibly Yanma would be kind of more up your alley. But I think in general, Yanmega is still a big bang for your buck. I mean, you're not going to get an insanely crazier amount of matches out of Yanma than you will out of Yanmega. Preferred wise, yes, Yanma's preferred way more often than Yanmega, but Yanmega still wins quite a few matchups very similarly that Yanma does as well. So there's not really a big reason for me personally to say I want to power up a Yanma versus just evolving a Yanma and having a Yanmega there. That's just me personally. I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on both of these Pokemon. If I'm being completely honest, I would go with a different bug entirely. that's without doing a deep dive, without really knowing anything about either of these Pokemon more than the research that I've done for this video. So possibly tomorrow, if we end up getting our Yanma, then we could be seeing a different opinion. That would be completely up to the votes. And of course, like I said, if you guys are interested in voting, definitely go down there and vote for some Pokemon. Either way, that is actually gonna be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think of Yanma and Yanmega down in the comments below. I definitely think that Vespiquen's probably a better option. I definitely think that Scyther's probably a better option in a lot of scenarios. Anyways, we'll go ahead and play that ending footage. Well, you've made it to the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, if you do have any ideas for content, please drop them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to look at those for you guys. Of course, if you want to join my personal Discord, get to talking to some people that have a similar outlook as myself, definitely go down into the description, join that Discord there. If you want to become a Patreon, there is a link down in the description for that as well. My outlook on Patreon is I don't want to put anything behind a paywall. This is what I do. You guys get every bit of what I make, and I don't want to limit that to someone else just because they can't pay for something. I didn't think that was fair. If you want to be a Patreon, just know that you're literally doing it from the kindness of your heart, wanting to support me, and I appreciate that. You don't even understand how much. There are a couple of other options if you would like to join the community here on YouTube. It's very similar to a Twitch-like subscription where it's a dollar amount per month depending on where you live. And then that monthly fee basically gets funneled to me every month. And you do get a couple of special perks here on YouTube, like some badges and some emojis or whatever. Honestly, I think those are only for live streaming. So that may not be the way that most people want to go, but that's an option if you want to. Other than that, if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, that link is actually going to be down in the description as well. And until our next video, guys, that should be it. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out. And until our next video, I will catch you then.